After a long delay, we finally received the Cyberpunk 2.3 update, and the reaction has been rather, well, mixed would be an understatement. Some fans were furious and stated that the new edition was largely underwhelming and a huge letdown. They vented their frustration, and then in the other corner, fans defended CD Projekt Red for their life, stating that fans should be happy to get anything, as it's a 5-year-old game and it's all been done for free. It was like a mini war, but you know what I realized? This is all good news for Cyberpunk. Those that vented frustration and complained, why did they do that? Because they love Cyberpunk. They want more content so they can keep playing it. They were generally upset. And those that defended CD Projekt Red, well, they loved the game so much that they went out of their way to stand up for it. This is incredible for a game that is 5 years old. The bottom line is, although those two sets of fans may disagree about the update, they are in agreement that Cyberpunk is a great game and worth arguing about. Ain't nobody arguing about Mind's Eye. Lots of older games receive updates and nobody even talks about them. The point is, Cyberpunk's update is only argued because Cyberpunk is worth it, and it's currently relevant, and the fact that this is happening now is a gaming miracle. Cast your eyes over to Mind's Eye, a game made by former Rockstar developer Leslie Benzies. It sucked, and nobody really cared. This update for Cyberpunk has received more attention than Mind's Eye ever did, and that's literally a game that just came out and released in an unplayable state. Why? Because people care about Cyberpunk, and just this month they have received a Mac release, a new update, they hit 30 million in total sales and have become the #1 selling third-party title for the Nintendo Switch 2. Look back 5 years ago, and this game was considered a failure and beyond salvation. In this video, I'm going to tell the story of Cyberpunk, its anticipation, its fall, and finally, its rise. I will cover everything and explain why Cyberpunk 2077 is a gaming miracle and a lesson about never giving up. Now just before we get into that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. So Cyberpunk 2077 was first announced in 2012, when a few concept trailers were shown to fans. Now at this point, CD Projekt Red had released Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, and although they gained a small fan base, they were far from the powerhouse that they are today. It wasn't until they released Witcher 3 that things really took off. This game redefined what an open world RPG could be. The game's map was bigger than most. Its hundreds of side quests were more detailed than most games. Its role-playing, decision-making system was way more in-depth than many other games, and its writing and character design was unmatched too. In a nutshell, this game changed the genre forever, and its influence is still seen in games of today. It didn't just match the standards set by the biggest studios, it went several levels above. CD Projekt Red then released 2 DLCs for the game, which once again redefined what a DLC could be, with Blood and Wine being the size of a full game for a DLC price. It's still considered possibly the greatest DLC of all time. CD Projekt Red also established a great relationship with their fans. They were known as a studio that valued their customer satisfaction over corporate greed. They were different. And then, at E3 in June 2019, during Microsoft's Xbox press conference, CD Projekt Red showed more trailers on Cyberpunk, and they even brought out Keanu Reeves, announcing he was in the game. As you can probably guess, after Witcher 3's success and the announcement of Keanu Reeves, expectation was through the roof, but CDPR were not afraid to fan those flames. During an interview prior to the game's launch, the representatives made a lot of promises, which included purchasable properties, customizable vehicles, a wanted system, the ability to enter every building, and so much more. But the biggest promise they made was that the game ran smoothly on both current gen and last gen. So essentially, not only did fans have high hopes, but CDPR said, we will meet them. And then, in December of 2020, the game arrived. And how? First of all, the game was almost unplayable on last-gen hardware, with bugs, glitches, and issues plaguing that version. I remember I walked out of my apartment in the game, I had the PS4 version, and the police attacked me for no reason. I literally couldn't play the game. Everywhere I went, these police just kept attacking me. My wife played at the same time, she picked up a drink at the start, and he got stuck on the camera for her whole playthrough. It wasn't just bad. It was unacceptable. As a result, negative reviews flooded in, fans made negative videos, people really were upset with CD Projekt Red. It was so bad that the director had to make an apology video, and many online traders, like the PlayStation Store, took the game off of the market. Over 30,000 refunds were issued. On newer gen, the game ran well enough, but it still had limitations. Driving felt unresponsive, quests still had some glitches, and the promises that CD Projekt Red had made, well, many of them were broken. The wanted system was a joke. You couldn't buy apartments or customize cars. You couldn't enter all the buildings. Basically, not only was the game released in an unfinished state, but it was nowhere near what was promised. At this point, many fans walked away, requested refunds, and more importantly, they lost their faith in CD Projekt Red. The rumor online was that they released a game like this to appease stockholders. So maybe they didn't care about the fans after all. Many believed the situation was irreparable and that CD Projekt Red would go under. After all the hysteria died down, it was time for CDPR to get to work, and essentially they had two choices. Option A, walk away, like Mind's Eye will do and multiple other studios have done. Accept the game was a mistake and apologize. Take it off the store and pretend it never happened. Or option B, work to make the game what was promised in the first place. You see, despite all the glitches and bugs, you could see somewhere under all that mess there was a diamond. The writing, excellent. The characters, amazing. The open world of Night City, outstanding. Under all that mess, there was a masterpiece. But in order for it to be seen, CD Projekt Red would have to clear the path. And so they began. 4 patches would be released in the following 8 months, and finally they managed to clean up the game. It was now in a working fashion, with many bugs ironed out, playable on both current and last gen. Then, in February of 22, CD Projekt Red released patch 1.5. This patch began to finally allow the game to showcase its full potential. As well as performance and ray tracing modes being added, the game added new content, including 4 new apartments to purchase, character customization, new combat AI, realistic NPC behavior and traffic, a reworked perk system, new cyberware, new quests, and UI improvements as well. They also organized the side quests to arrive more slowly rather than bombard the player with hundreds at once. Patch 1.6 then added more requested features like the ability to preview closing shops, arcade games were added, and after the success of the Netflix show Edgerunners, players new and old began returning to the game to find it in a much better state. Patch 2.0 released in September of 23, and if the previous patch showed the game finally at its best level, Patch 2.0 felt like the game they perhaps always wanted to make. People finally had their police chases and vehicle combat. This was the game that the developers had promised to make all along. It didn't just look like a new game, it played like one as well. Just a few days later, and the DLC expansion Phantom Liberty released for next gen. Phantom Liberty released to much positive reviews, with PC Gamer giving it 87%, IGN 9 out of 10, and it averaging 4.5 out of 5 stars on Google. It featured an acting performance from Idris Elba, adding to the cast with Keanu Reeves. The new expansion was fantastic, and it really upped the levels of the base game, finally implementing well-written quests which had decision making that actually impacted the world. It also added a new section to the map, Dogtown, which encouraged more natural exploration, and this whole expansion slotted into the base game seamlessly. And then in December of 23, just when it looked like the final update had arrived, CDPR shocked fans with patch 2.1. In this patch, they added official versions of some of the most beloved mods, a metro transportation system that you could actually use and experience, romantic hangouts at your apartments, street vendors and bar interactions, gang reputations which changed based on player actions and would result in open world activities. And since then, we've had patches 2.2 and 2.3, which have added more vehicle customization features, new cars with side quests, a taxi service, auto drive, and much more. So not only did CDPR work to get the game to its best state, but they continuously kept adding to it over time. First, they underdelivered, then they fulfilled all the promises that they made, and then finally, they actually gave more than they initially promised. The game right now is even better than the one they promised all the way back in 2012, and it is just as good as we always hoped. It just took a few years to get there. And now we get to the present day, where Cyberpunk has received yet more updates and garnered huge attention. During the livestream hosted by CDPR on Wednesday, which would cover the 2.3 update, over 80,000 people tuned in to see it. Videos have been made about the update and garnered thousands of views. At the same time, this new amazing version of Cyberpunk has just been released for the Nintendo Switch 2, becoming the best-selling third-party title. The new Edgerunners season is releasing on Netflix, and Cyberpunk is coming to Mac. It's July of 2025, and we are now witnessing a second release of Cyberpunk. What if Cyberpunk released in its current state today, back in 2020? It's a question that I have often asked, and now we are finding out. With all these re-releases, new patches, new content additions, all eyes are on this game. What is happening is that the game is finally getting the attention and recognition that it deserves. Fans who walked away in 2020 after the release are returning to find a game they actually love. New fans who were too young to play it back then are experiencing it for the first time, and it's now more popular than it's ever been. This game never really had its time in the spotlight, for good reasons. It got negative publicity after the launch, and then sort of snuck under the radar. When we discuss the greatest RPGs, it's rarely mentioned. But now, finally, it's becoming apparently obvious that the masterpiece that was hidden is finally being realized by all. You see, Cyberpunk isn't just a good game, or even a great game. It is one of the greatest RPG games of all time. It is right up there with the likes of Witcher 3, Skyrim, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and Red Dead Redemption. It's one of the greats. We just didn't know it back then. When we talk about the greatest games of all time, Cyberpunk can finally get the recognition that it is now sitting at the same table as those gaming greats. CDPR got the game to those same heights, but it wasn't until now that it's finally been noticed. Cyberpunk 2077 is a gaming miracle, not just because it has some of the best written quests, one of the most in-depth open worlds and memorable characters. It's not just a gaming miracle because it has a huge selection of vehicles that handle well, or gunplay as good as any first-person shooter, or even that it's a graphical masterpiece, arguably the best looking game even today. Nor is it just a gaming miracle for its cyberware, player housing, in-depth RPG mechanics and decision making. Not even just because it has incredible cameos from great actors, some of the best written stories in gaming, and one of the best musical scores to boot. No, all those things are what make the game a masterpiece. What makes it a gaming miracle is that it defied the odds. After that launch, people said it was destined for failure, a game that would fall off before it got going. Mind's Eye flopped, and that will have no redemption. We've seen this happen many times before, where a game has had a poor launch and it quickly fades away, quickly forgotten. Cyberpunk is a gaming miracle because the developers never gave up. They never surrendered, they never accepted defeat. They never accepted good enough and only strived for above and beyond. They defied the odds, and besides No Man's Sky, I can't think of any other game that has had a comeback like this. From the most refunded game to the most purchased game for Switch 2. From a low-scoring game to an RPG masterpiece. From a game largely ignored a year after release to a game that garners massive attention for simple updates. Cyberpunk was destined to fail, and CD Projekt Red have ruined their reputation. That was the story, and only the most optimistic fool would believe it could be turned not just around, but to entirely new heights. And yet, that's what CDPR has done. They went from a greedy company who rush out unfinished games to a company that provides free updates for fans just for the love of gaming. A company that will work to right their wrongs, no matter how much time and money it takes to do so. A company that truly does value their customers and take huge pride in the work they produce. This story shouldn't exist. We shouldn't be arguing about a free update on any game that's 5 years old. And yet, here we are. Why? Because it is now one of the greatest video games of all time. This is a lesson to anyone in life, that no matter what mistakes you make, no matter how daunting the task ahead of you is, no matter how many people say you can't do that, no matter how many odds are stacked against you, you can do anything you set your mind to and stick to your original vision and goals. Cyberpunk is a gaming miracle for all of these reasons, And even if you don't like the game, you cannot deny it's an extraordinary tale. But anyway, that's it for this one, but what do you guys think? Do you feel that Cyberpunk is a gaming miracle? What were your thoughts on patch 2.3? Or do you disagree with my view entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please give it the thumbs up, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis, identifying what makes great games great and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.